Everyone, and welcome to another space with IONET. This time we're doing things a little bit differently. We've got a great panel here to discuss AI and the intersection of crypto. Let's go around the room and everyone introduce themselves. Victor, let's start with you.
Hey, thanks. Didn't get your name. Yeah, my name is Victor. I'm the CEO and co-founder for Maiga.ai. So we are building AI agent for DeFi, focusing on crypto signal, providing use cases for AI agent for the Web3 market. Great, and thanks to be here.
Great, thank you so much. Anthony, let's move over to you.
Oh, sorry guys, I was muted. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony. I work for Polyhedra. We are creating the infrastructure for AI verification.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Tassif, let's hand it over to you.
Sure. Hey guys, happy to be here again. My name is Tassif Ahmed. I'm the Chief BD Officer here at io.net.
Mike?
Yeah, pleasure to meet everybody and be on the panel. I'm Mike Zaharsky. I am head of go-to-market over here at Allora Labs. Prior to that, I was over at Chainlink Labs for 3 years and led the strategic business development team over there. And what we're building at Allora is a self-improving decentralized collective intelligence network for the financial and behavioral applications of AI. If you want to make it TLDR, you can think of it as like a predictive oracle.
And last but certainly not least, Haru?
Yes, how are you? Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is How You. I'm from Ember.ac. We are the incubation program under Ember Group, and we are looking for projects at the intersection of crypto and AI. Thank you.
So, my first question to the panel is, in your view, what does making crypto great mean, and how can AI play a role in that revival? Victor, let's start with you.
Thanks. I know it's a broad question. We just want to create some interesting content and, of course, insights, right, for everybody. So, at MIGA, of course, what MIGA stands for is a little bit cheeky. It's make AI great again, which is called MIGA, right? So it's a twist and tweak of what Donald Trump campaign is, right? MIGA. So looking at the current slump of the Web3 of AI agent, whereby the speculators have a little bit left. So it's all about building, right? And I think that personally, we know that crypto itself, right, has to evolve beyond just purely speculation and memes, right? We need to create some actual impactful and useful product or technology or infra that really empowers and get more people to use crypto itself. And as we know, AI is making all the wave globally, right? From like Web 2 to Web 3. And of course, at Web 3, although a lot of people are talking about speculative and component to the AI agent, but we know that AI, if we infuse it together and interoperable with the crypto itself, we could actually create much more impact, which is actually suitable for that whole Web3 movement, right? Web3 is all about blockchain and decentralization and creating a permissionless technology. Either it could be infra, it could be a product, or it could be a tool, or it could be even inference, compute, and so forth, right? We know that those things are actually what empowers the whole AI movement. And together with this technology of AI and crypto, we think that we can make AI great again, right? To bring more movement back to the crypto itself through the infuse of AI tech into crypto. Yeah.
Anthony, let me bring that question over to you and add a little of context. In Web3, we've heard this phrase, and we replace AI with a different word. This will change things. This will make things better. Specifically, what is it about AI that makes this different than other calls for inclusion and positive growth in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies, I think my microphone cut out before while I was speaking, but thank you so much to you guys for hosting this space as well. And yeah, make AI great again. That it is cheeky and definitely a bit of nod to nostalgia, but I think it is very much about getting back to why we started building this space in the first place. And of course, AI is having an extremely pivotal role in this next wave. But crypto itself was never meant to be just about just pure speculation or yield farming. It was about creating an open, permissionless financial system. Um, you know, we want users to own their data. It's about building trust without middlemen. I think that there can be a situation we find ourselves in where it becomes more about hype than substance, and then people start asking, what's the real utility, or it can be pulling away from projects that are kind of these shining beacons of utility. So I guess, when we're talking about why AI is going to change the narrative here, I think that's the key word there is utility, and resetting the narrative a little bit, because AI is obviously across the board unlocking capabilities we've never had before, and that's in every category, in every space. Name a space and see how it's being disrupted, kind of thing. But autonomous decision making, intelligent automation, even predictive analysis with crypto. But again, a lot of it exists in a black box. It's extremely powerful, but sometimes we're not sure about how it's arriving at its decisions. So, or if we can trust the output. So that's very much what we're focused on over at Polyhedra. We believe zero knowledge proofs can fix that, and that's the clear path that we see forward is verifiable intelligence. Yeah, so I guess in a word, I would say AI is bringing out a lot of utility, but let's just make sure that we can verify it.
Tassif, on the issue of utility and excitement around AI, you've talked previously about how AI and the narrative changes the Web3 ethos, creates accessibility. What are your thoughts around this particular question?
Yeah, so a few thoughts around this, right? So I think a lot of the folks here have already covered sort of like this broader shift that everyone is, expecting and hoping for, and in terms of how the last few, months to a couple years have been really sort of driven by speculation and hype in crypto. And I think, this is a broad expectation that for the next, phase of growth within this industry, it's really going to be driven by sort of more utility driven and actual like use cases within the space, right? And I think AI is going to be at the forefront of that development and adoption of that utility. Um, so yeah, so I think kind of as you mentioned, us being at IONET, we've sort of been at the front lines of the development of the intersection of AI and crypto, right? And I think there's kind of like a few different ways that I've seen real utility sort of start to pop up, right? I think, and there's two different ways to sort of like think about it. One is the idea of how AI can have an effect on crypto, and I think there's multiple ways that that can come about, whether that's actual like sort of AI powered wallets or like fraud detection or smart contract audits, things like that, or sort of automated yield management, or sort of like agent driven use cases beyond the ones that we're used to today, where we have a AI agent sort of tapped into a X account and slapping a token on top of that, to actual like real agentic use cases that people can use to really improve their workflows and make their lives better, that are further driven by crypto. I think that's sort of one of the aspects that I see kind of really driving that next wave of utility. I think the other way to think about this too is, the other direction of the effect of how can crypto have an effect on AI as well. And there's a lot of like really interesting things and research that have started to not only been published, but also actually been put into practice with things like decentralized training and proof of inference, which kind of really bring this crypto ethos of decentralization and permissionless systems to a trend of centralization and consolidation of power that's already happening in the AI space, right? With closed source models from OpenAI and Anthropic and some of the other like big behemoths. So I think we'll continue to see sort of like a mutually beneficial relationship and cause and effect across AI and crypto, which at the end of the day will end up being really great for consumers and developers everywhere.
And then, Mike, over to you. At Allora, you're dealing with a lot of infra. How do you see AI evolving into the narrative, especially around this topic of utility?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see, and you're already seeing play out, is there's going to be three phases of agents. You've had the first phase. I think we're kind of past that right now. But for anyone that's unfamiliar, it would be agents that they have a token around them to create community. But essentially, at the end of the day, they're basically chatbots tied to hot anime chicks and nothing more. What you're going to then see in phase two, where I think we're kind of like just starting to enter phase two, is you're going to have everything from the previous phase of phase one, but now agents are able to actually do very basic on-chain transactions. So things like swap my BTC for ETH, bridge this asset from chain A to chain B. It's cool because now they'd be doing things that are actually on chain, but really, like, who does that help at the end of the day? Maybe some guy that's a beginner and is comfortable depositing with an agent, but isn't comfortable when using a DEX for whatever reason. But I think that phase is going to be very short lived. And then what you're going to see in phase three is when you have things like the Allora network go online, you have some of these SDKs and toolkits get a bit more robust. You're then going to be able to have agents actually perform yield generating financial use cases at an expert or near expert level. And that's where things get really, really cool, because that's what makes the space greater, I guess, greater again, if we keep it on with the theme. But everyone talks about onboarding the next 100 million users. It's very much a cliche and a meme, but I feel once you have these agents in a place where they can execute these yield generating financial strategies at a very high level, that's when it gets a lot easier. If we've been in this space for more than 12 months, you've had those calls with family members, friends, cousins, long lost buddies from school that, hey, I'm trying to do this thing on this DeFi protocol and I'm confused as all hell. Can you help me out? You're going to have agents that are able to do that for you. And then also the thing about AI is it never gets tired. It never complains. It never needs to go to the bathroom. It never needs to eat. It's always there, present, optimizing. So, if you're a beginner or somebody who's intermediate, you're gonna have a better result using the agent than what you would be able to do yourself. But even if you are an expert or a near expert, you're gonna need to sit in front of your computer screen 6, 7, 8+ hours a day in order to optimize your portfolio. So what would you rather do? Be sitting in front of your computer for 8+ hours a day, or give an AI a 5% performance management fee and just say, okay, you do this, you'll do it as good as I would, but now I can go outside and touch grass. So there's going to be a lot better of a user experience just all across the board for every single participant, from the guy who just learned about crypto yesterday to the guy that's been in crypto for 10 years. You're going to see everybody just have a lot better experience. And then all these markets are going to be a lot more capital efficient as well as a result.
Yeah, you touched upon an area that I want to ask the panel about in a moment, which is AI's use case within DeFi. But before we get to that, what do you think about this topic? Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I've just briefed about three critical issues, I think, which will explain how to make crypto great again by AI. So the first issue is, like, we have seen a lot of accidents of fraud and hacking, and these accidents will decrease our trust, not just in the specific projects, but in the idea of decentralization that crypto stands for. So when people feel unsafe, they hesitate to invest or participate, which will stop progress. And the second issue is the extreme volatility we have witnessed, which will turn the crypto landscape into what feels more like a gambling arena than legitimate investment space. and many investors are drawn to meme coins and short-term gains, often overlooking the fundamental value of projects. This shift is unhealthy for the ecosystem and stops innovation. And lastly, the long-star issue is a complicated user interface, which is a significant barrier to mass adoption. And I think AI could help to resolve these three issues in the future.
And so, taking what you had just mentioned, security, and what had been mentioned previously about DeFi AI, how can AI enhance the security, auditing, and reliability of smart contracts and DeFi protocols? Victor, let's start with you.
Just to repeat the question, I missed the last part of the question.
Sure. How can AI enhance the security, auditing, and reliability of smart contracts and DeFi protocols?
Sure, thanks. I think that is actually one of the natural use cases, right? Because if you can see Cursor, Cloud, Anthropic, all of these AI agent is just at the infancy with the limited compute and whatever resources that we have today. And we really could code any application right now on Web 2. Of course, Web 3, there'll be some security issue. But just based on that alone, right, they could have already done it. Even, for example, our team is also looking at lovable dev, which is you could create and code a front-end application with all the framework and is usable within a day. And that is not done by seasoned developers, right? And just based on that alone, at the current phase of the actual AI in the real world today, either it's Web 2 or Web 3, it's unbelievable looking at the progress of that. And we could try to imagine that ChatGPT OpenAI just started like 3 years ago. And as we know in the industry of technology, the growth and progress is exponential, right? And AI could even self-learn on its own to code over time to be better on its own. Of course, there's a lot of nuances and small little details that could miss out. And of course, ChatGPT is not like all holy grail that is not wrong, right? But again, just having that mindset and even the current progress of the AI, we could do all of these, coding just by having these kind of startups, right? And it's just a start. And just by that definition alone, the auditing process will take a lot of all these surface error that could be done on the security side of these codes, right? Especially on like smart contract, because these are very dangerous. They could hack. But as we know today, even on the current progress of the crypto smart contract and hacks recently, a lot of the hacks are not focusing on the code itself, but more on the social spoofing and hacking on the server on the developer's laptop, right? Imagine that Bybit hack, right? It was not really on the code, but it's just more on like they hack it on the developer's laptop, replace one little bit of a code line, and then they replace the transaction with their own wallet, right? So essentially, it's actually just replacing stuff that has nothing to do with code. And it can be done by actually hacking on the social stuff, more on the social side than the actual code side, right? So just based on the current progress itself on the AI, I think a lot of security, a lot of all these issues with like the code, the general AI itself right now could actually solve like 98% of the problem. I would say 98%, right? Of course, there are certain elements that a lot of developers or smart contract auditors still need to have a look at it to ensure that it's done right and foolproof, right? But just looking at this progress, I believe that in the short term, in the future, a lot of all these AI will be a tool assisted by the smart contract researchers, smart contract security companies and stuff to even reduce the bandwidth or the workload by their own team, right? And I think that until today, it's not going to be a fully autonomous AI security auditor yet. But I think in the short term, it's just going to be a tool to help. But long term wise, AI is going to take over this, right? Or especially even on the more complex tasks.
And Anthony, over to you. Do you agree that 90% of these problems can be solved in the future with AI? If not, are there any sort of tension or friction that could occur in its development?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. You know, when we're talking about, I like the point of mutually beneficial when we're talking about security, auditing, reliability. I mean, you know, like we talk, well, obviously we're very heavy into zkML. So on the flip side of it is like, how can we prove that, you know, an AI used in a court system or a financial audit or something like this hasn't been tampered with, or, you know, AI agents on chain that are managing, you know, your assets. How can we prove they're following the rules? But, you know, on the flip side of that, you know, one thing is definitely clear that smart contracts, yeah, they don't forgive mistakes, and absolutely that's been, you know, has been moved towards these more nuanced kind of social hacks. But we have seen, you know, historically, you know, bugs, you know, it's just subtle logic errors wiping out millions, that maybe, you know, seasoned auditors would have missed. So of course, yeah, just those that few percent that you know, could slip through. I think AI can definitely cover that spread. You know, with smart contract ordering, and you know, whether that's more real time monitoring and threat detection. Or even like improved, you know, incident responses in certain scenarios. I think, you know, definitely it will improve the spread, but you know, I don't think AI alone is enough. I think that you need to also be able to trust, you know, trust the model's output as well, because if you're talking, you know, you need to be able to trust the auditor. You need to be able to verify that the output came from the right model, the right data, without tampering, because then it becomes a question of where the bugs start. So yeah, I think that's why, you know, AI and ZK in terms of enhancing security and auditability of smart contracts and DeFi protocols is what I'd be leaning into.
Tassif, let me ask you the same question and how it could apply to, if we think about builders, OGs, people that might be new to this space. What impact and effects should we be seeing and people should be paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of how AI can really sort of affect the, you know, security auditing reliability within like a broader Web3 DeFi protocol space, I think there's actually a multitude of ways, right? I think folks have already covered a lot of them already, but I think kind of at a high level, I sort of think of AI as kind of like, you know, taking sort of like the natural steps of what we already do in terms of security audits and security checks and things like that, kind of taking that to the next level, right? Because if you kind of think about it, AI is fundamentally it's fantastic at pattern recognition, right? And any sort of like smart contract audit is fundamentally that's what they're trying to go for, trying to apply sort of like best practices, like try to do sort of like simulations to kind of like run and see where there's potential loopholes. But the reality is, any smart contract auditor, regardless of, you know, how experienced they may be, they're never going to have the experience of, you know, having been trained on every single smart contract out there in existence, and, you know, sort of like every variation and eventuality of what could potentially happen. And I think that's been one of the, you know, interesting things in the Web3 space that, you know, everyone has sort of probably realized at a certain point or not is, you know, with smart contracts and Web3 protocols in general, it's essentially sort of like a set of rules, that you're kind of putting out there, right? And once it's kind of out there, it's public and can be sort of like tested, by a variety of different actors. And with sort of DeFi protocols, smart contracts, there's actual tangible value tied to these contracts, or sort of like locked up as TVL in there. So you're going to have a variety of bad actors trying to figure out how to hack that system. And you know, I think one thing we can all agree is when you sort of set those sort of incentives out there, there's always going to be a lot of human ingenuity at play to try to figure out loopholes. And I think it's really hard to kind of predict what that would look like, unless it's actually already out there. So I think in that way, having AI tools kind of almost act as, kind of like a redundancy or sort of like a constant, like red team or blue team or however you want to kind of phrase it, in terms of sort of constantly checking for, contract security and loopholes, to make sure that whatever new DeFi protocol is out there doesn't repeat the same mistakes or, potentially create a new mistake that might have been missed by previous protocols. I think is one of the key value adds of how AI can enhance the security and verification and potentially like anomaly detection within the space.
And Mike, bringing it back to you, you had discussed a bit about this. Natasha raises an interesting point about the evolution of security vulnerabilities, uh, black hat actors also evolving. How does AI enhance that security and auditability, and what should be builders be on the lookout for as, of course, bad actors will continue to evolve in the space?
Yeah, I would say very similar to what the other panelists have said in terms of smart contract auditing. I think you're going to see a big boon in that. I don't know how long it will take for them to replace human auditors. I think right now where we're at, and probably for a bit of the foreseeable future, it's always best to have a second set of eyes, third set, fourth set, when it comes to auditing smart contracts. But I think that's going to be disrupted by the tools that we have. But I think maybe when it comes not much so towards like the bad actors, but in terms of protocol health, protocol stability, and user experience, I think you're going to see the first kind of impressions happen in that regard. I think with like lending protocols, you're going to see things like dynamic loan to value ratios, where depending on the mixture of assets currently within that protocol, and then the forecast for that asset's price and volatility, you can have the protocol dynamically adjust the loan to value ratio of what it will accept to new tokens at as collateral. Right now, you have them relying on firms like Chaos Labs and Gauntlet, who will typically charge seven figures, sometimes multiple seven figures, to release a quarterly report that suggests what these LTVs should do. So they aren't dynamic. They are very slowly updated. They don't take into account real-time market conditions. So I think you're going to see that get disrupted, leading to a better user experience. And then also with like lending protocols, I think you'll see things like dynamic liquidation factors. So for anyone that's not familiar with what a liquidation factor is, you go on a lending protocol like Aave or Compound, et cetera, and even if you're 1% under collateralized, typically you can get liquidated up to 50%. And when I say up to, I'm using air quotes because up to means pretty much always. So if you're 1% under collateralized, you're eligible to have 50% of your collateral liquidated. The economics of it are the liquidators get paid typically a 10% bonus of the value that they liquidate. So the more value that they liquidate, the more they get paid. So if they're eligible to liquidate 50% of your position, that's, always what they're going to do. Maybe one day you'll have the Red Cross and the Salvation Army running liquidation bots, but until we get there, it's kind of the nature of the beast. But what you can do with AI is, again, look at the risk scoring of the individual assets themselves. Look at the protocol's health itself. Is this an isolated pool? Is it part of a larger pool that's going to have toxic effects on other assets? And then you can decide, all right, and sometimes these 50% liquidation factors, they're necessary. In times of like a black swan event where chain's getting crowded, gas is getting expensive, you need to liquidate as much as early as possible. But let's say you're in a relatively stable market or even a bull market, and there might only be one asset that doesn't make up that large of a total component of your protocol, and it's just on a very slow grind down. You don't need to liquidate that guy 50%. You can liquidate that guy 5, 10, 15%, something that's going to be a lot more better from a user perspective and a user experience. So I think you're going to see things like that, where you're going to have the protocol being able to rapidly and dynamically adjust its parameters to ensure its security, and it just doesn't need to be hard coded to be, super heavy handed at all times.
And hi, over to you. We've heard some interesting use cases. We've heard about the areas of security and auditing. What would you add as either potential use cases or to comment on what's been already been said?
Yeah, I think the other guys had almost covered most of it. So just to list three very specific use cases that I have seen before, and I think these three use cases will be very popular in the AI security fields. So the first one is automated auditing. I think AI can perform real-time audits, continuously scanning smart contracts for the vulnerable codes. And this proactive approach will allow developers to address issues before they become major problems. And the other is behavioral analysis. So by monitoring transactions for unusual patterns, AI can detect potential fraud or attacks in real time. This not only protects users, but also contributes to the overall integrity of the ecosystem. And lastly, I think AI can assist in the risk assessment. It can evaluate the risk profiles of various DeFi protocols, helping investors and developers make informed decisions. By understanding the potential risks involved, the stakeholders can better navigate. Thank you.
So moving on from what AI can do to DeFi, let's talk about specific projects. What are some promising projects that you've all seen combining AI and Web3? And what do you look for when seeing a new project being announced that excites you, whether it's what they're trying to solve, what technology they're using? What do you all look for when saying that this is something that I want to continue to pay attention to? And we'll start with Victor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try to refrain from shooting ourselves, right? Yeah, I think to make it impartial, right? But of course, looking at this, I think the first thing first we have to ask ourselves, right? What do we actually mean by that? So how do we define that, right? So for me, because we are actually in that whole AI agent for DeFi, we are not looking at compute. I think IONet and Allora could actually explain a bit more on the compute, inference, and more. And for us, it's actually more on the application use cases at the protocol layer and AI agent for empowering traders, DeFi users, right, to actually have the AI-driven model and analysis, right, to give to the actual users who need it. For example, some of the projects that we are looking for, some of our competitors, of course, I'll be sharing them as well, that I think that they are doing quite good. For example, Hey Anon by Daniel Siesta is actually one of the OG DeFi guys who actually been in the last cycle as well. He actually created a very good use case of AI agent on DeFi, whereby the AI agent would understand the context of that user prompt and command so that they could be able to execute certain, not only transaction basics, but even more application, more use cases on top of the whole DeFi movement, right? So that is one of the example. They are doing a lot of stuff as well. I can't catch up with the progress they are doing. They are doing a lot of stuff. But yeah, they also managed to rally the community as well, right? Which is one of the good signs. Despite being a competitor, I also look at them as actually one of the companies, right, or protocols. They are trying to bring this movement of AI agent on DeFi to grow together. They have done a tremendous job. So kudos to the team right there. And then, of course, the other protocols that is doing something really similar to what we do, Griffin, Orbit, and so forth, right? They are doing tremendous job as well. They have built a lot of AI agent use cases on DeFi or on transaction and so forth. But those are actually the existing version one of their product, right? I'm sure they're on Wayfinder, they're getting a lot of traction recently on Kaito Yak as well, right? So a lot of all these things are continuous to improve, and I will definitely take a look at them because at the end of the day, what the community and what the whole Web3 people are looking about is not only actually use cases, but you also want to rally to see that there's actually adoption of the specific tool and product that's being launched, right, which is the AI agent. On to direct competitors, we actually have two. One of them is called Gem XBT, another one is called Quant XBT. So these are some of the AI agents for crypto trading signals, which is exactly what we are trying to do at Maiga currently. Of course, we will evolve beyond that. But yeah, essentially, we are trying to offer some crypto signal and trading information analysis using machine learning that is impartial, that is useful, backed by machine learning, so that it's not like insider pump and dump by KOLs, right? It's going to be really AI to give you that information through machine learning, reinforced learning, training on the data from various sources, on-off chains, trading volume, and so forth. And therefore, right, it's going to be useful for traders to validate their trading strategy and hypothesis. This is the key part. Because a lot of people assume that AI agent for crypto trading and signal has to do with, hey, if the AI agent helped me to make a lot of money, then great, right? But as we know, it's not really just, we are not at that stage yet, whereby the AI agent could actually guarantee to make you money and manage your losses. But all of these tools today, including us, will be able to provide those kind of useful information for a specific use case, for a specific group of users, exactly what normal Web2 startup would do, right? You want to get to a product market fit from a small group of users who actively use of your product and give you feedback and try to improve on that, and you add in more specific use case and features after that, right? So essentially, I list out many of the names of the products and protocol, but yeah, at Maiga, we are trying to do that as well, right? So we wanted to create use case, useful information through AI agent that understand what the user needs for our targeted users. Yeah, so that's me. You're on mute. Maybe he's disconnected. Maybe you can go to what Anthony. Maybe you can Anthony. You can continue to chip on.
Yeah, sure, sure. I'd actually echo a lot of the sentiment that you were just saying, Victor, actually. You know, and working on the ecosystem side at Polyhedra, I feel extremely lucky to get to interface with you know, many partners. A lot of businesses that are building on EXP chain and integrating even you know, ZK PyTorch and just, you know, whatever that AI project is, and just, you know, making it verifiable and safe. That, you know, I guess, you know, for me, it's not really about just one or two standout projects. It's the thing that really excites me is the sheer volume of really smart teams out there that are tackling, you know, the intersection of AI and Web3 from such a multitude of angles. You know, obviously you guys at Mega, very exciting one for us, and there's a momentum, you know, building. It almost feels like early Ethereum, for everyone knew, you know, what was possible. But you can sense like that there's just so much going on, right? And yeah, it's very exciting. You know, AI and blockchain. You know, it's interesting seeing all these use cases, and I think we're going to see more and more because yeah, it's not just that they're compatible. I think in many cases they're necessary counterparts, and I think that in the future, what we'll be seeing is that a lot of the function of AI, depending on what model it is, you know, and what its function is, I think a lot of the background will be still interconnected with Web3 and blockchain.
I'm sure we could have a space about making Twitter great again, but that is a different topic. Anthony, you were talking and was cut off. If you'd like to continue.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, X Spaces is a fickle one. Not exactly sure what I was talking about when we got cut off. The question was about specific businesses, or what was the question?
What was the project, right? Just now we were mentioning that type of like catch our attention in the intersection of AI and crypto recently.
Ah, right.
Yeah, around that topic.
Yeah. A lot of projects. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I was to shout out a couple, I mean, obviously, yeah, Maiga. Geez, who have I spoken to? The Fetch, Singularity, Nets. Also speaking with Aten, CKGI. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I don't want to get too specific because you know, I think that there's so many great projects. You know, so yeah, again, what gets me really excited about it is you know, you've got all of them anything on the agentic layer is really exciting to me, right? You've got AI driving all this capability and blockchain ensuring integrity. And yeah, that's definitely the kind of future I want to help build. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I actually want to chip in, right? Just now you were mentioning one thing that really caught my attention as well. We saw the emergence of like DeFi and the smart contract decentralization movement, right? 4 years ago, when Compound, Synthetics, DYDX started their whole liquidity mining on chain, right? And those builders movement through Ethereum sparked so much on-chain and layer one, layer two activities starting from that it creates feels like an energy that you can see all the builders are going there, right? And you are just not mentioning that feels that AI right now on Web3 is actually having that same kind of energy. I think a lot of people are burnt out by the normal memes and like another chain itself, but feel that the AI itself within the Web3 is actually getting the most development progress, right? That you can see is exponential, right? Not just another DEX, not just another DeFi protocol, right? It's a lot of attention, a lot of energy by the builders in this current AI at the current stage. That's what I want to chip in.
And Tosif, let me pick up on that. Not only what projects excite you, but how do you separate signal from noise when you're looking at a project and how it's advancing?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a few projects that are pretty exciting to me in this space currently. Obviously, yeah, there is a lot of noise out there, right? And I think you'll get a lot of people kind of jumping in on the hype because AI and crypto sort of like combined definitely, is a very hyped topic. But I think in terms of sort of how to separate signal from noise, I kind of really, kind of try to understand or sort of like get deep with the actual builders behind the scenes as well, right? Like the actual founders, the technical people, and have conversations with them because you can really, once you kind of like start talking to the people building these projects themselves, you can kind of quickly start to see who's really trying to solve a problem versus who's just trying to sort of capitalize on the hype, right? So I think there's a few projects that kind of come to mind pretty immediately to me. I think one of the projects we've been working closely with is Noose Research, who are sort of a decentralized AI research lab, but they're starting to build out more of the protocol side of their business, and with a deep focus on decentralized training, which kind of as I mentioned previously, was one of sort of like those key areas of intersection between AI and crypto where I thought a lot of value could really be generated. So yeah, so News has already released a few sort of like leading open source AI models such as Hermes, and now they're starting to move on to sort of more complex and larger parameter models with their decentralized training protocol, which I think is really exciting for the idea of decentralization in the space of within the AI space. And there's a few other projects kind of building similar things, such as like Pluralis, Prime Intellect, and others who are also really great builders. Another project that has kind of stood out and I think just sort of was in the news recently is Ambient, which is by Travis Good, who you guys might be familiar with his brother Alexander Good, who's a prolific poster here on X. But they just announced a round of funding from I think Delphi and Andreessen to specifically build out a proof of work blockchain focused on using the compute aspect of the proof of work towards AI/ML workloads, which I think is kind of like a really interesting angle of combining the ethos of sort of how Bitcoin works, but sort of rather than having wasteful proof of work computations go towards sort of generating hashes that are discarded, they're more sort of utilized for AI specific workloads. So kind of an interesting idea there, and a great team builder behind that as well. So I think those are some projects that really stand out to me at the moment in this space.
And then, Mike, over to you. We've heard developer interest, builder interest. What projects excite you, and how do you separate signal from noise when looking at new projects that enter in the space?
Yeah, I think I try to look for projects that are trying to push the envelope, do something new that's innovative, something that hasn't been done before. Especially like to see stuff that just improves the user experience, stuff that helps with capital efficiency. I think that's going to be the biggest boon and what is going to be the biggest benefit to the space overall. People are doing things like chatbots, unless it's diagnosing potential like cancers and stuff like that. It's more of like a novelty and a parlor trick. But when you actually start having agentic features in them where they can make your life easier by performing actions on their users' behalf, that's when things get really interesting. So love to see people that are trying to push the envelope, especially when it's teams that have a track record of being very capable at what they do and having the ability to execute on their vision. Those are the things that I look for and what gets me excited.
And then, over to you.
Okay, so I found AI infrastructure projects are really exciting to me. So in the past, the AI has often been viewed as a symbol of centralization, where few mega corporations control vast amounts of data and computing power, and this leaves smaller companies struggling to compete, often relegated to developing applications that lack of core technological innovations. However, the AI infra structure products in blockchain technology has the potential to disrupt the situation by decentralizing the computing power and enabling the tokenized data sharing. Blockchain can eliminate barriers in the AI industry. This shift can empower a diverse range of players to contribute meaningfully, fostering the innovation and creativity in ways we haven't seen before. Another area I'm quite excited about is AI agents. These agents are becoming increasingly prominent in the Web3 narrative. While AI agents might seem not so sexy as a couple of months ago, I believe we are just beginning to understand their full potential. As these AI agents will grow smarter and more efficient, their impact will be felt across the crypto landscape and beyond.
So to close out today's space, I want to ask, what should builders be focusing in on in this intersection of AI and crypto? And this is a time to talk about what you're building at your respective projects, and as well as other areas that you would say would be interested. Tassif, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few different things, right? But I think first and foremost, I think the real unlock with, sort of like the overlap between AI and crypto really is um, the improvement of the end customer experience, right? Like I think usability and UX has always been one of the crypto industry's weakest points. But I think some of the new natural language interfaces and complexity abstractions that are made possible by incorporating AI with typical crypto tools and protocols can really open up the possibility of adoption by a much more mainstream audience and bring them into Web3, right? Which has kind of been sort of like the holy grail problem that a lot of us in this space have been trying to solve. So I think that's one part that I'm really excited about, and I think which builders should focus on right now when they kind of think about how to essentially fuse together AI and crypto. And I think secondly, for your show point, I will make it a point that when people are thinking about building with AI and crypto, I think the more they can think about how they incorporate different parts of the um, decentralized AI tech stack into the solution that they're building will sort of make their end product much more robust, permissionless, failure resistant, whether that's using decentralized compute from us at IONET, whether that's using decentralized storage or data protocols, whether that's from Filecoin, Arweave, Walrus, whether that's using sort of like proof of inference type protocols, whether that's using decentralized training. I think there's a variety of ways to kind of really pick and choose the most optimal tech stack and structure that you need as a builder to build your decentralized AI app. So, and there's a lot of interesting people building tools to make that developer experience even easier. So, I would highly recommend builders jump into the space and explore all that's available to them today.
And then Hayu, over to you.
So at Amber AC, we have a slogan, which is crypto for AI. And we strongly believe that successful crypto projects should contribute to the evolution of AI. However, we recognize that there are significant challenges ahead. Instead, we think builders should focus on how AI can actively enhance the crypto industry right now. For instance, while many teams are developing AI agents like trading bots, the performance of these bots often leaves much to be desired. It would be highly beneficial for builders to collaborate with quantitative traders who understand market dynamics deeply. Together, they can develop truly effective trading bots that not only execute trades but also adapt to changing market conditions. Another area for builders to focus on is security, as we discussed before. In a space where hacks and frauds are too common, implementing AI-driven solutions to improve market prediction, auditing, and reliability of smart contracts is essential. The robust AI technologies can provide necessary tools to ensure that crypto environment is secure and trustworthy. Furthermore, I think community initiatives should not be overlooked. We realize social fi is becoming more and more popular these days. People are seeking consensus in each community. Builders can create more applications for AI communities in Web3. Communities are the key factor keeping the Web3 users engaged.
And Mike, what are your thoughts?
I think what people should be focusing on is the infrastructure. I think the infrastructure, we're still in this phase where the actual plumbing needs to get laid out to be able to do these really cool things that a lot of us have in the back of our minds that we'd like to see develop and come to fruition. So yeah, that goes for things like privacy, decentralized compute, verifiability of models and inferences. And for decentralized intelligence networks like the Allora network, where you have multiple competing parties trying to provide you the best sort of inference possible for a supervised machine learning problem. Things like LLMs, they're good at predicting the next letter, but they're not good at predicting any sort of financial forecasting. So if you want to do something in DeFi, an LLM is part of the stack, but you need something like Allora where you're able to actually draw an inference for prediction of price, for volatility, how much liquidity, volume, or fees are going to be in a liquidity pool, or what the APY of a certain strategy, an LST and LRT, or an interest rate for an asset on the lending protocol is going to be. So once you start to have this infrastructure plumbing in place, and I think this is all going to be getting done very rapidly, and you should see a really different landscape 6 to 12 months from now. Once that infrastructure is there, you're going to be able to actually do these things that a lot of us have in mind that we'd like to see get done. And from there, it's just going to be parabolic in terms of the capabilities that agents are going to be able to provide and just how much more prevalent they're going to be within society.
Anthony, over to you.
Yeah, I'd say well said, Mike. I agree with everything that he said just there. Absolutely focusing on infra. I guess for builders, I'd just say don't just bolt AI onto crypto and call it innovation and try and shill. I think we've seen enough of that in the market. So yeah, definitely utility, verifiability first. Just make sure the outputs of your models are provable. It's so easy to do now. So I'd lead with that. I'd also be looking at modular, composable infrastructure. Trying not to get locked into any one sort of framework necessarily. I'd be thinking, less end product and more like toolkit. Definitely like data sovereignty and fairness, because people definitely want smarter systems, but they want to know where that data came from, and at the end of the day, who's benefiting. and yeah, the infra. So just interoperability and verifiability first, I'd say.
And then to close this out, Victor, your thoughts.
You know what? After listening to the panel today, I feel a little bit smarter. And of course, I just want to say one thing, right? I to Mike as well. Mike, I'm our Maiga was part of a Chainlink build portfolio. And good to see like fellow previous Chainlink at Allora. I realized Allora has a lot of builders as well. And yeah, really glad to actually have a lot of partners right in this panel as well. Like Iona, Allora, Polyhedra, and more, right? So of course, Amber is also our investor. So having just talking to you guys, right, really make me feel that hey, I think a lot of builders, as long as all of us are actually building the actual thing that people want, that could be useful, either infra, decentralized compute, privacy, whatever that we are building right now. And of course, for us, is AI agent, and for crypto trading, right? And how you was mentioning just now, working with like more quantitative, right, to understand more of the market dynamics, some of the data that is required to create a better model for crypto traders and the DeFi environment. So I think, as long, in my opinion, to close it off, right, I think as long as builders keep on building what is actually what user wants and what is going to powers the technology and application, that will continue to grow for foreseeable future, right? Not just another copycat on the market, but able to actually execute and grow with the market, right? Is I think what what all of us at the Web3 and AI needs. Because no point to keep on just building something that extracts just like any other meme coin, while we are actually building AI in the intersection of crypto and Web3, right? So I think for on my end, at Maiga, we actually wanted to build that as well, right? Together with our partners here. And I think that if you are continue to do this together, and I think that we could build a really solid foundation, right, going on forward. Because it's just a start. I mean, AI just like really got into mainstream of like the ChatGPT, OpenAI, and so forth. And now we are looking at the start of the boom, right, of all of this. And I hope that all of us will continue to succeed, right, and able to gain a lot of significant market share from the Web2 space in the foreseeable future. Yeah, back to you.
Great. This is a space that will continually evolve, and we're excited to have all of you back in 3 months to talk about how things have changed and where new use cases are. I'd like to thank our co-host Maiga for helping to sponsor this space. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their insights and thoughts, and of course, all of our listeners for making it through yet another X Space glitch and still surviving. And so until next time, we'll chat soon. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.